Welcome back to Diva On A Mission podcast, where we share snippets of joy to uplift, inspire, and motivate you. I'm your host, Eva the Diva, and I am thrilled to bring you stories that transform everyday moments into profound experiences. So today's episode is about remembering what works, like reclaiming the conditions where you thrive. And it is a truth about becoming, like the process of becoming. And it's about remembering who we are or who we were before we started doubting ourselves. So today's episode was inspired by a dream. I was dreaming about a time and a place where I thrived. It was I had a specific job at the time. My life socially was going in a certain direction. There were certain things that I was doing at that time. And I felt like when I reflect back on my life, that was a time where I really thrived. And so this dream took me back to that time. And I was remembering all the things that worked. And I want to break that down so that I can understand the elements that worked for me, that allowed me to thrive, so that I can create those systems in my life now. And I hope that's interesting to you and you'll go on this journey with me. So, this dream was not random. It was very deep. And it is a kind of dream that lingers in your body long after you wake up. So I dreamt that I went back to a company I left over 15 years ago. And in the dream, it wasn't about the job. It was about the feeling. And that's what I want us to unpack today. So in that dream, I was in a place that once felt like a dream come true. I had aspired to work for this company at that position. And what stood out wasn't like nostalgia, it wasn't regret, it was clarity. The facilities worked, people were competent or were genius at whatever they were doing. There was camaraderie, roles made sense, and they weren't rigid. The company was not obsessed with titles, and they were more focused on contribution, on exploration, on possibility. And so when I woke up, I realized something important. I wasn't missing the job. I was missing the elements that worked, right? So this dream was calling me to map out the systems that were in place in my life that allowed me to thrive and live at my best. So, clarity of purpose without micromanagement. I knew why the work mattered, but I wasn't strangled by control. There was an element of trust within. I trusted myself. The people I worked with trusted me. And that kind of trust does something to your whole body, your nervous system. It relaxes you. And relaxed people are very creative, right? Then there was strong infrastructure. Things worked. Systems, processes, tools. I wasn't spending my energy fixing broken foundations. I was building on top of something solid. And I feel like that is like half the battle sometimes, right? That you're like, I've had roles before where I was trying, like nothing was working. So I had to create a system first. I had to develop a relationship with the people I was working with first before we can get the job done, right? And that always sets you back and it kind of slows down your progress. Then the other thing that was like a winning combination to things working was that the roles were fluid, not rigid boxes. I wasn't reduced to a title. I could explore multiple aspects of myself. Strategic, creative, relational, intuitive. I wasn't punished for being multidimensional. I was rewarded for it. Camaraderie and collective momentum. I wasn't alone. there were smart people around me, curious people, people moving in the same direction I wanted to go. There's a particular joy that comes from that shared competence, that shared goal. It sharpens you, it steadies you, it makes you more, right? And you're not trying to contain yourself. You're trying to kind of just let yourself go and be fully there. And there's nothing that would allow you to thrive more than that. Also, having a sense of forward motion, right? The future felt open. It wasn't frantic. We were not desperate for anything. I was open, and the possibility was normal, not rare. So I wasn't the only one feeling this. I wasn't the only one living this. There are many people in my life, in my network, who are sharing this experience with me, and and it was also fulfilling them in various different ways based on what they were looking to achieve, right? So now I want to translate these conditions into my life now, right? And I know this is like where the rubber meets the road, because the lesson is not going back. It's not about going back to the place and the time, because I have also grown. But now I need to take the systems that worked back then and make them work now and recreate those conditions in my current environment, right? So how do we translate this? You take things from a chaos format and contain them, right? Creativity is supported by structure. And you have to ask, like for myself now, I'm trying to write more. I want to dance more. I want to have a better podcast. What systems support my writing? What systems support my dancing? What systems support my podcasting? Where am I relying on raw passion without enough scaffolding, right? And the lesson here is creativity doesn't need suffering to be valid. It needs a container. It needs a system, right? Financially, how do we go from survival to sustainability? Back then, my contribution matched my compensation. There was predictability and growth. And now the question becomes, how can my income be rooted in systems, not constant reinvention? Where can partnerships, platforms, or institutions carry some of the load, right? And the lesson here is I don't need to do everything alone to be worthy. I need structures that respect my value, right? If it's about, say, for example, the poetry collection timelines, I don't want to just keep posting and doing marketing for this poetry collection. I want sales. I want engagement. I want feedback. The things that show me that there are people buying my work, that they're interacting with it, and that this creates value that I can bank on, that I can grow with. How do I go from isolation to camaraderie? Like working in an isolated position to working within a group of people who understand what we are working towards, right? Back then, there was belonging without performance. I just focused on what inspired me, what I felt called to create. And then there was no proving, there was no need to prove that it was necessary or that it works or that it would be relevant, right? Respect without proving. So now I'm trying to ask, who are my people? Where am I tolerating misalignment instead of seeking resonance, right? The lesson is, I thrive in relationships where curiosity, competence, and kindness coexist. And so I need to recreate that in my current environment. Co-realization. So it was a beautiful dream, and it was very necessary to remember the feeling of being in a place and time where things are working out for me, and carrying that feeling forward. So this is what that dream left me with. I don't miss the job. I miss the conditions where I trusted myself, where life felt spacious, where my gifts were met with support, and that means something powerful. It means I know what alignment feels like. I have lived it before, and I can build it again on my own terms. So just because that situation was in the past does not mean I did not own it. It just means that, we grow past the things, the containers we put ourselves. Doesn't mean we don't miss the container. We can build a bigger container, or we can create a way to exist without containment. So it's about recreating the systems that allowed me to thrive. And so for you, I want to ask you, or I want to kind of just pose this for you. Instead of asking, like, what should I do next? Try asking, under what conditions do I come alive? Because sometimes I think we are so focused on hopping from option to option or solution to solution without taking time to see if, in this particular situation A, for example, it didn't work. But there were some things that, like, totality of A didn't work, but there's some aspects of A that I loved, that I thrived in, right? So what can I carry forward to B so that I am not recreating B from scratch, right? And so instead of asking, what should I do next? Try asking, under what conditions do I come alive? Then start there, because destiny isn't always about a new direction. Sometimes it's about remembering the environment your soul recognizes as a home, the place where you thrive, the soil in which you are your best, most abundant, vital self. Again, these are the conditions that work for us. Or rather, as I titled this episode, Working Conditions. I hope this episode has been of value to you. I hope you will subscribe to our YouTube channel on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok at DOAMpod, or send us an email at doampodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Diva On A Mission. And if this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone who needs permission to stop struggling unnecessarily. Until next time, stay awake, stay resourced, and don't forget what works for you. Peace.